back to what I was talking about earlier. We got distracted. Um, we were talking about how to use AI in big businesses or whatever, and the way that it differs from how we use it personally, or like all these people spinning up agents, is that there is a lot of obviously proprietary information, company information that you don't want to be just exposed and leaked and people be able to access this, right? Because right now everyone's just building up Claude, telling Claude to build me this dashboard, build me this cool stuff, and like I mean, that's great and all, but when it comes to actually properly using and exposing this data, you have to have very granular and strict permissions on all levels, and you have to really define like how everyone should be building agents, because you'll have multiple teams and not everyone can do and build out an agent for every team. There's so much that goes into each different team and the different stuff that they do. Even at my company, the way that we operate, and the company I work for, not mine, but like the way that we operate, there's so much like workflows that you would never think like AI wouldn't come up with themselves. And there's a specific reason for these workflows, right? When they do work, there's a specific way that people are doing it. Like, oh, actually, the customers don't like when you do or send this information to them. You need to make sure that every time they get an information, it's always emailed, or it's almost like there's a specific formatting, all this kind of stuff, right? So let's say that there's marketing department, there's a tech department, there's the finance department. They all have different workflows. They all work differently, and so when you build an agent, one team can't build an agent for another team because they don't have that context, right? So the finance team should be building their own finance agent. Is my idea of like how agents should be building. Every team should build their own agent, and then there should be an orchestrator agent. But the issue is like how do you like make it consistent, or how do you build and create a how do you build and create a standardized approach to all of this, right? So Work IQ, Microsoft's workplace intelligent layer. It connects your AI agents to real company data, emails, team chats, calendar events, OneDrive files, SharePoint, and your org's people directory. It does this while enforcing your company's security permissions and compliance rules. You don't have to build any of that from scratch. Okay. Agent to agent, open industry-wide standard. It depends how two agents could talk. Think of it like rules for common language. An agent you build in Python or Net can send a task to Work IQ's Microsoft Copilot's agent, get an answer back, and continue multi-step, all without a human in the loop. Before Work IQ, A2A existed. Building AI on top of company data was a massive headache. Here's what changed. The old way. You hire engineers to build custom pipelines that extract data from Microsoft 365, index, stored in a vector database, enforce security manually, and keep it synced. This could take months and cost a fortune before writing a single AI feature. That is a huge issue, right? The amount of data that comes at a large or enterprise organization, yet alone a small one, is nuts, right? The amount of logs, the amount of people you email, the amount of people that you have a meeting with, a Teams chat with, to like old, a database of like all your hardware, all your software, every single thing. To have all that data in sync is just nuts. There's so much information, right? And it's hard to really vectorize all that and then organize it. Work IQ handles all of that. You simply send a question to Work IQ Gateway, and it reads over your company's real data, emails, meetings, files, and returns a grounded, permission safe answer. No custom data pipelines, no compliance headaches. Okay, that's interesting, but how? For enterprise builders, this means you can now plug a real AI reasoning engine into your workflows, one that actually knows what's in your company's emails and calendars without rebuilding security from scratch. How does A2A actually work, right? Let's walk through the real world scenario of how agents talk. Your agent, OpSpot agent, Workato recipe, you send a message to Work IQ Gateway. Microsoft Copilot agent reasons over your data, enforces permissions, returns grounded answers. It queries Microsoft 365 data, gets all this information that Work IQ, I guess, knows about, and then it sends back the data. All calls are secured, it gets a task, and sends it back to your agent. Your agent sends a message. Work IQ verifies, Work IQ reasons over your company's data, Microsoft Copilot inside Work IQ pulls. I wonder how it's doing this. It's just all custom API calls that they built out, graph calls. Your agent receives structured result. Your agent acts on the result. 3 ways to connect. Work IQ speaks 3 language. Think of protocols like the way you might connect a company. You could call it A2A, visit the website from form REST, or ask a smart assistant. So you have A2A, REST, MCP, local, MCP, remote. Agent-agent structured communication, best for multi-agent systems. My workout ops agent asks WorkIQ to investigate regression, get email thread, and return findings. REST, traditional web API, your app sends an HTTP request and gets a response back. My web app sends a question to WorkIQ and shows the answer to the end user. Okay. MCP local, expose the WorkIQ as a tool that an AI encoding assistant or ID can call to bed. Developer asks GitHub Copilot if you ask code a question, calls WorkIQ behind the scene, gets company contacts. Okay. A2A, if you're building an autonomous agent like Workato Recipe that needs to delegate a task, Copilot, and the structured result back. Use MCP for your developer working on ID and want AI tools like Cursor or Claude to be able to query your company's Microsoft while helping you write. Use REST if you're building a user-facing web or mobile app that calls WorkIQ programmatically. And the rest is the simplest integration method, was currently still coming soon. So I still don't know how WorkIQ essentially works while reading all this. What's it built on top of? And then also MCP is a great tool if you don't need context, right? If your agent wants to call MCP to just be like, hey, how do you get email information, and then MCP would just expose the email API that it needs to call. It would know exactly, it just calls it, and then it gives it back in whatever a human readable form, and then you get the response back. But it wouldn't have any context behind the different things of how you work and how you flow, right? If you talk to an agent, it might be like, oh, it could pull the calendar, but it knows like, hey, do not pull any stuff from this calendar, during this time because of something X, Y, and Z happened. It just has a little bit more context, right? It knows the nuances. It knows like, hey, these clients don't like when you don't put their name at the footer. You have to have your footer, like just stupid stuff like that. But it's not dumb. It's actually the thing that stands out. It's the context, right? Your company's data universe, emails exchange, how to get it set up, get the right license, create a WorkIQ principal, register your app, admin grants, authenticate. What A2A can do right now: sends a message, multi-turn conversation, text-based response to source, agent discovery, building enterprise grade with this. Here's how to think about building a serious production-ready solution. The most powerful design: build one orchestrator agent that receives tasks from your business systems. The orchestrator decides which specialized agent to delegate to, and WorkIQ's Copilot agent becomes one of those specialists handling anything that requires reasoning over company data. Your orchestrator stays in charge. WorkIQ does the intelligent on behalf. If you're building a server-side agent like a web app or API, you'll use on behalf flow. This means your server gets the user identities token and then exchanges it for a WorkIQ token. So every query a WorkIQ runs is that specific user. Okay, so this is like pretty much, can't you just have that built into the orchestrator pattern? In a way, so like if I am working at a company and I need to know like, hey, how do I take time off? What's the out of office policy? Can you add it to the calendar to take time off on, I don't know, September 15th? And so what it would essentially do is it would know that you're the one asking the questions because it was authenticated on behalf of you, and it knows all your permissions. It knows that you have the ability to do that. But if you were like, hey, can you give me my colleagues' PTO schedule. Can you give me their salary information and what they got paid last year? It would know that it's you asking. It would know that you are not the colleague and you shouldn't have permissions to ask for this question, and it would restrict you and give you back an answer like, hey, you don't have access to that. Okay, agent card, JSON, RPC access token. Okay, this is all good, but like, now we get to the next part of it where we dive in a little deeper. Okay, so let me see. Okay, this is good. Can you go ahead and now tell me how WorkIQ actually works? Like, how is it built? Is it built on APIs? Is it built on like a MCPs? Like, what is it? What's different about WorkIQ? Did they just do the heavy lifting of having all the Graph API calls connected, or how is this like a groundbreaking thing, or is this just like a proxy, like, or is just like a unified way of doing all things 365? Write me a documentation more so of just the low-level details of WorkIQ and how it works, and obviously give me nice visualizations and all that kind of good stuff. But I kind of want to know how it works under the hood and how it really is different from like just making a graph call or spinning up an MCP. Like, what makes work IQ that much more powerful and different. Let's see what we come up with. Okay, so let's see what work IQ is. Work IQ just graph API with extra steps. The short answer is no. The difference matters enormously for what you can build. Here's exactly what it is. A thin API wrapper that re-exposes graph calls in a different URL, essentially for forwarding requests, something that just handles OAuth, unified SDK, a semantic reasoning layer. It ingests raw graph data, builds internal meaning from it, and returns answers, not raw records, okay? A Rego-based policy engine that evaluates every single request against identity, resource path, method, and tenant level rules in real time. That's very, very important. A runtime introspectable surface. Agents ask what data exists and how it's structured at query time, not from a static schema loaded up front. Okay. Persistent workspace where agents can store immediate results and hand off state to other agents and track multi-step work. So the main, okay, it's pretty interesting. A runtime, agents ask what data exists and how it's structured at query time, not from a static schema. Okay, 5 layers inside Work IQ. Work IQ is a layered system. Each layer has a distinct job. Understanding them tells you exactly what Work IQ does that you otherwise have to build yourself. Accept requests in 3 industry standard protocols. Your agent doesn't need custom coded to talk to Work IQ. It speaks A2A, MCP, or REST. You can swap protocols without rewriting your business logic. A workout recipe using A2A today could be migrated to REST tomorrow with 0 changes to what Work IQ returns. Under the hood for A2A, it uses JSON RPC 2.0 over HTTPS. For MCP, exposes an SSE endpoint and a tool manifest version, dispatch header, A2A version. I kind of want to go into more detail for this for myself because I just want to brush up on a bunch of stuff and understand how everything is working still, right? What it does, every request must carry a bearer token issued by Microsoft Entra. Work IQ validates the token, extracts the user identity, and uses it for security context, critical design choice, delegate. Work IQ has no application-only mode. There's no service account, no admin vector. Every query runs as real named human user. This is intentional. It means Work IQ can never return data that user couldn't see. Single scope for A2A. One permission that covers the entire conversational service. Contrast with raw graph API, which requires scope. This is the most technically novel part. Instead of checking static list of OAuth scopes like graph, instead of checking a static list of OAuth scopes like raw graph does, Work IQ runs a Rego policy engine, the same language used by Open Policy Agent (OPA) against every single tool invocation. What Rego evaluates per request: the user's identity, the resource path being used, method, the consent of the data, and the tenant level configurations. What this replaces, in a raw graph interaction, you would have to write your own permissions, check middleware, manage sensitivity, label enforcement, track audit logs. Work IQ does all 3 automatically for every request with no code from you. Admin observability, every tool invocation is logged, rate limited, and surfaced in the Microsoft 365 admin. You get auditability without building a logging pipeline. The semantic layer is where I'm interested. This is what makes Work IQ genuinely different from a graph proxy. When you ask what deals closed this quarter, Work IQ doesn't just run a keyword search. It assembles organizational context, pulling from emails, calendars, themes, threads, SharePoint, and grounds LLM reasoning against a combined signal before returning an answer. You do not need to build a RAG pipeline. Work IQ assembles and grounds context internally across all M365 data sources before the answer is generated. The agent gets a finished Copilot quality response, not raw documents to rank itself. Work IQ maintains a live semantic understanding of what's happening across your M365 tenant, not just point in time snapshots. It knows how data is related across sources. That's very cool. I wonder how all that works. Runtime agents can call get schema and search paths to discover what data exists and how it's structured dynamically at query time. Every data source becomes a self-describing interface. Yes, Graph API is at the bottom. Work IQ's entity tools fetch, graph, assert, create entity, ultimately resolve to Graph v.0 endpoints. The relative pass you pass maps to graph call, but you never write the graph call. Work IQ handles pagination, 100 items, SharePoint embedded in an agent, long-running workflows, need someone to park immediate. Work IQ provisions a SharePoint embedded container inside your 365 tenant boundary, a persistent governed scratchpad that survives across the agent turns and can be handed off between agents. Okay. Work IQ, I was just going to ask to see an actual example. Work IQ versus raw graph API line by line. To read emails, 3 separate API calls, 3 scopes you own, join logic. One Ask call work IQ assembles the context to read email. Permission model, dozens of static OAuth calls. Scopes, mail.read, which is true. I mean, every time we're making a graph call, sometimes I have to connect to create a proper permissions for this. You might have to create like an enterprise application, give it the scopes like this, and then make the graph call. For broad OAuth permissions, fine grace control handled by Rego engine per request. Sensitivity labels. I don't like how it's red and green. I mean, it's saying like this is bad. It's not necessarily bad. It's just, a different way to do it. Natural language reasoning, not included, build your own rack pipeline, built-in ask return copilot, quality grounded answer. Schema discovery, load entire OpenAI spec into context or hardcode, get schema plus search type. Audit, we tool logged, raw JSON you parse rank and interpret it, ground natural language without. What about spinning your own MCP or graph? Could you just build an MCP server that routes graph API calls? Yes, you should. Here's a real comparison. You build and maintain MCP, you define tools, you manage OAuth, no built-in semantic reasoning. Yeah, that's a huge one. You're responsible for compliance enforcement. If a file has sensitivity label that restricts your MCP will know unless you explicitly check. No persistent agent workspace, long-running tasks needed provision. 10 tools, infinite paths that design that scales. Fetch, entity tools, the most elegant architectural decision work IQ. The tool count is fixed at 10 forever. New capabilities add resource path, not new tools. Here's each one. Fetch, create entity, update entity, delete entity, do action, call function. Graph, okay. Copilot tools, ask, list agents. Schema tools, get schema, search paths. The Rego policy engine. Workspaces, the part that nobody talks about. Workspaces, sure, this is interesting. So what actually is work IQ? It is not just a proxy. Does it use graph? Yes, it does. Is it ground? Breakingly or incremental, generally raw. Does it replace the need for a RAG pipeline? Yes. Is it policy? Rego? Yes. OPA, should you build your own MCP only if you need custom logic it can't provide? Work IQ is raw. What work IQ is? A semantic rounding layer, a unified protocol gateway, Rego policy. Okay. This is all really cool stuff, and it's still a lot for me to digest, right? Like, I'm reading this, it's all making sense at a high level, but you want to see these things in practice, right? The next step of learning, you ingest the data. Now I could read, honestly, I could read 20 more articles about this, and I still won't get that much more knowledge than what I just read. The only other next step for me to like really build the layer of understanding and learning is to do it, right? So I got the high level, kind of understand like, hey, what's going on? Like, what is work IQ? Oh, why can't I just use a graph call? Like, hey, okay, cool, work IQ does this whole semantic reasoning layer. When I ask it questions, it might be able to actually give me back a proper human readable answer. It can do multiple things at once. I don't have to write 3 different separate graph calls. If I ask for, hey, what is this user's calendar, email in the last 10 days, who have they emailed, and how many meetings have they had in the last 10 days? Essentially, I mean, under the hood, it's still making those graph calls. It's just that if I was just using graph, I would have to make a call to their calendar, I would have to make a call to their mail, I would have to make a call to, I don't know, something else that I need from them. If I just make it to Graph IQ, it will automatically authenticate, know I'm an admin, make all those graph calls under the hood, and tell me what I need to know, right? And knows the schemas and knows everything else. So next thing that we do, so I take this and I will try to go deeper and tell it to give me actual real world examples. And then from there, I would actually, the next step would be doing this myself, right? I can't show that part because I do this on my work laptop. I don't have this stuff in my personal, and I wouldn't want to even show it, right? Obviously, I do want to show it, but at the same time, I don't have like I'm sure I can spin up dev instances and all that, but I don't have that. So let's get to the next part. Okay, so this is really good. Now the next thing I want to do is, can you actually help me understand this even better by giving me real world examples or like actual things that people are using this already to use, right? Like, what's the adoption rate? Are people actually using work IQ? And if they are, like, how are they using it? What's the best ways that Microsoft has talked about? And then can you go into more detail about Rego policy engine, but in like more of a real world? Like, I know you described it in detail, but like, is this just I don't know about the Rego policy. Is that just something that came about? What is that initially? Is that something built by Microsoft, or is it an industry standard? And then can you also talk about like the I think you were talking about under the hood for the protocol, right? The fact that it can use JSON RPC 2.0 over HTTPS. For MCP, it exposes SSE endpoint and a tool manifest. And for A2A version 1.0, can you go into a little bit more detail for those three things? I want to kind of brush up on in general if I understand JSON RPC 2.0, and then the whole MCP and SSE endpoints and stuff. I kind of don't know it as well.
My toenails are so messy.
Okay, let me see it build that out. Whew, getting sleepy. While this is going on, I kind of wanted to look into some coffee machines. Espresso. My favorite coffee shop closed down. Kind of pissed. Trying to see if there's something I can order online that would be good. That's not gonna cost me a freaking $758. How long would it take me to break even? So I have to get coffee every day, and I actually like going to my coffee shop. So what is this? So if we do average coffee nowadays, I mean mine, I spend like $6.50. That's a little bit more on the expensive side. If you could get it cheaper, if you go to like Dunkin', but mom and pop shops are always a little bit more. So $7.58 divided by 6.50. So I would have to pretty much make 116 coffees in this thing before I break even. And I don't even know if I'm gonna use it like that. $758 is a lot. 500. Yeah, it's a decent amount of coffees that I gotta go to. 116, and I do like going to a coffee shop. $3.39, $2.89. That's pretty cheap with all of this. I have zero idea of what's good and what's bad. All I wanted was to. I'm gonna search up the best way to make cold foam, and then really good cold coffee. Because cold brew is a little stronger. The coffee shop I used to was making a lot of really good cold coffee, and I don't know the nuances between that. I know you have to do it in like a slow. Like I don't even know the tools that they used. I'll have to search it up. Let me see cold coffee. It was like how to make cold coffee, how to brew cold coffee. What was it called? It was like, how do you guys make cold? Not cold brew. There's a name for it. How to make cold brew concentrate. Let me see. It's gonna bother me. Cold coffee. I go back to damn. It's still running. Cold coffee. Just gonna piss me off. Oh, is this? I don't know if this is it. There is a machine that you like slowly pour into the ice, and I cannot for the life of me remember What the hell it was? I don't know, different ways to. I look into different ways. Immersion method. What is this? What in the world? I think it was it a slow drip? It wasn't a slow drip. I just have a cloud for. My goodness, this is taking forever. It wasn't this. God. Was it Flash Broom? No, that's just like. Instant coffee. That's not it. Oh my goodness. Maybe it was just a pour over. I don't know. I forgot. French press, aero press. Oh, it was one of these maybe. Overnight cold brew. Might have been a. It wasn't regular drip coffee, no. AeroPress coffee, room temp water, no. Overnight cold brew in a mason jar, no. Overnight cold brew in a French press. I think it was a mocha pot poured over ice. It might have been this. Maybe it was a mocha pot. I'll have to try all this shit out. Anyways, okay, let's get back into who's actually using it, what Rego really is, how protocols work, who's actually using WorkIQ. I mean, WorkIQ just came out like available on June 16th, so literally a week ago. Microsoft Scout, the most visible real-world deployment, announced June 2nd, is the most concrete public proof work of IQ. Scout is Microsoft's always-on agent that lives across Teams, Outlook, OneDrive. When you tell Scout to block prep time for Thursday's customer meeting or flag decisions has been installed, which are actually running underneath the Scout the reasoning loop calling the WorkIQ's tool. Scout is also open source, built on OpenClaw, meaning developers can inspect exactly how production Microsoft agent orchestrates WorkIQ calls. That's direct blueprint from what you built. What's approved, Microsoft isn't just telling you WorkIQ's production guide, they're running on their own flagship agent product on it. That's the clearest adoption signal possible. What Microsoft's learned deploying itself. There's no formal launch campaign. Meeting transcripts are biggest unlocked. Data governance first, AI second. 6 real-world scenarios for Microsoft's own products to enterprise automation patterns you can build today. Each one shows WorkIQ. Morning intelligence. Give me a brief of what happened overnight, what's on my plate today, and anything that needs my attention. A Node.js script, one of the first community samples of at what is this? At GA. Runs on a call, runs on a cron, calls WorkIQ, runs on cron, calls WorkIQ, tool gets back a grounded summary across the email calendar, no custom data file, no graph calls, no racks out of the entire script is 80 lines. Runs on cron, calls WorkIQ's ask tool, gets back grounded summary. Block prep time for Thursday's meeting, flag any open decisions. That should be resolved before then. Scout calls WorkIQ's contacts API to pull meeting contacts, email threads, and relevant files. Then calls the tools API to create a calendar block. The policy engine ensures Scout only writes to the user's own calendar, not attendees. This is A2A delegation pattern in production. Okay. Cross-system intelligence. When ServiceNow creates a P1 incident, pull all the team messages and emails about the system from the last 7 days, summarize what's known, and route to an on-call engineer. A workout recipe triggers on ServiceNow. A workout recipe triggers on ServiceNow. Why the hell would you ever trigger a workout recipe on ServiceNow? Or why is that? It calls work IQ via A2A with the system name, time frame. Work IQ assembles context across teams and email, returns a summary with citation. Workato routes the result to on-call Slack channel. Work IQ replaces what should have been a custom graph integration vector search. Okay, but what? I need to know how Work IQ is working, not this shit. Rego, when you see Rego, you might assume Microsoft did that. It's been a cornerstone of cloud native security for years. Built by Styra in 2016. Or distributed to Twitter and realized there was no good open standard. They built OPA. The runtime and Rego, the language is written for policy value. It's okay. Rego web package, we're going to default allow user identity. I see the data account. Okay, this MCP. I kind of wanted to know more about the 3 things to take away. Work IQ. Like, how does it actually? What is the work IQ? I know I mentioned in the last document, but yeah. Anyways, all that to say, these are the things that you would really care about on an enterprise level. Is essentially the Rego stuff, right? Because these are the things that you need to be asking yourself. If you're working at a company and you're an engineer, or you're thinking of, whatever, building this out for your own company, essentially you really need to be thinking about all these methods and stuff, right? What are they actually touching? Do they have access to it? If they don't have access to it, you need to deny it. Data content, HTTP method, tenant configuration, all that kind of good stuff. User identity, very important stuff. These are all things that I'm learning myself, and this is essentially the way that I would go about understanding how things are working using AI, right? There's so much that's going on here, and I still need a lot more time to digest pretty much everything that's been telling me here, right? It's going to take me a little while, but at least I now have a decent idea of what we're dealing with and where to go from here, right? So the next step would be actually trying it out, seeing how it functions and if it works, and then going from there and just learning and building, right? Every day you just learn and you build. You learn, you build, and then you just continue the next day. I mean, this whole entire AI space and everything that's happened, all it has been was experimenting, seeing what working well, what's adopting, and then just building on top of that, right? We went from earlier where everybody was using like ChatGPT for writing scripts of code, and then taking the little scripts of code, inputting that into your own data code base, and then you got to connect it to VS Code, and then it can do pre-filling, like it can do autofill or whatever it is, autofilling code, and then after that it went from doing that to writing its own scripts. But you're just adapting. The only way that people understand this is you test out this new feature, you see how well it works, you figure out what people are actually using it for, and then you adapt the technology and make it better and better. And that's pretty much how AI has been progressing, how companies have been using it. People are just making things easier and easier to use, and just now with enterprise level, you really care about these things, right? Rego, the actual security